Guitarist Denis Taaffe, and I'm in my home studio, and I want to welcome you to the making of my 347th album called Modern Rock Guitar Vol.347, Sea of Tranquility 2. Okay, real quick, for those who aren't familiar with my music, my approach to music, basically I'm a guitarist, electric guitarist, and I play guitar and do guitar loops done on the fly, which just means that basically while I'm playing with a pedal board, I record part of what I'm playing, it starts to loop back, and I layer things on top of that. I also do bass emulations on guitar, so basically it's pretty much guitar dropped an octave to sound like a bass. And sometimes, I do guitar swells and things to sound kind of like a synthesizer and that kind of thing. However, I also use, sometimes, drum machines, a lot of times, or the Beat Buddy drum pedal, if you like. And some people say, oh, well, those aren't real drums. Granted, that's true. But actually, I grew up, using a drum machine, so it doesn't bother me one bit. It's very nice to be able to play, at any time, not have to worry about setting up drums and being too loud and so on and so on. Anyway, okay, now, all of my music is improvised on the spot and is recorded live and performed live by me, including every track on the album, on this album and all my previous albums, except for the first one. The first album I ever did was in 1999 called Modern Rock Guitar Vol.1. Abducted by Aliens, I think it was the name. And that was a conventional album where I worked things out ahead of time and that kind of thing. It was a more kind of a rock album. And from albums 1 to about 199 were what I consider more rock albums, And of course, by that time, from 1999, till now, I had aged. So, and as a result, I kind of changed styles. Surprisingly, decided, I listened back and I thought, well, it's rock stuff. It's not all that musical, really. It is, but my taste had matured and changed a bit, and I was more into doing music for film, and as a result, it was really a different style for me altogether. I'm really thankful for it because it kind of reinvented myself, musically. So I do appreciate that very much. I don't have hit songs. I don't have worked out songs at all, and I'm not very good at playing other people's songs, quite frankly. I remember no matter what, it always sounded like me. I mean, there's just not much you can do about it. However, I love improvising. And what I found that I was really good at was listening to something I played and come up with other guitar parts. And when I discovered the looping thing, I thought, well, there you go. It was just amazing to find, different parts that would fit well to my ear anyway. And so I've been doing that, and I'm always surprised at what musical direction it leads me in, on there. Now, because I'm doing this kind of thing, and there's no real way to, to practice the actual songs. You really have to take chances, and that's a very scary proposition, because it's very easy, to fall flat on your face, hit wrong notes and those kinds of things, Obviously I try to keep that to a minimum if I can. But I've been doing that for so long now, it's almost second nature to me now, I don't know, it's just what I like, I guess. And I'm always, I really find things musically that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise, had it been worked out ahead of time and that kind of thing, And some people like the idea, some people hate the idea, whatever. But I really enjoy it. It also, probably one of the reasons why I make so many albums, because I don't spend a year, working, each song out ahead of time and practicing it and, that kind of thing. So, it's made me a much better musician, if you like. Yeah, because you really have to listen and also learn, it's not just, when I say improvise, I don't mean, just play any notes at all. There's some theory behind it, chords and scales and keys and harmonies and intervals and so on, so on, so on, so on. Okay, anyway. So there you go. That's kind of what I do. And I really like it. And I'll tell you, to be quite honest, I remember, earlier albums, especially the rock albums, I didn't listen to myself all that often, whereas this kind of new style for me is much more subdued, much more musical. It's the kind of thing I can listen to, anytime, just listening, but also driving or going to sleep and so on and so on. And so, and then keeping, making new albums, because, eventually you go, well, yeah, it's good, but I'd like to hear, something else too. So I keep making albums. Now, okay, let's get to it here. So here's Modern Rock Guitar Vol.347, Sea of Tranquility 2. Okay, well, why is it called Sea of Tranquility 2? It's not confusing enough, right? Well, as it turns out, here's what happened. Okay, I made a YouTube video for the first track. I think it was the first track. Could be wrong. Well, anyway, one of the tracks on the album. I think it was the first track because it was really the main theme of the album that all the other tracks were based on. And, well, I used this NASA public domain free video footage, to put together a music video. Well, I called it Sea of Tranquility. So that right there named the song on the album. And because there were several variations of it, and it was the main theme of the album, obviously the album should be called Sea of Tranquility. One little problem, and that is, I'll be darned if, I think it was volume 140. Is that right? Yeah, I think 140. One of my previous albums, and I think it's volume 140, was called Sea of Tranquility. I go, oh, well, hell, I can't call it the same thing. Alright, so Sea of Tranquility 2 was born. And it has nothing to do with the previous album at all. And basically, I don't know if I just ran out of names or, but that's what happened. So that's why it's called Sea of Tranquility too. And if we look at the album cover, I don't know, I'm looking at it here. Kind of bizarre, really. It's a public domain photo of a landscape, or a sea or an ocean with some mountains in the background. I thought it looked nice. And then I defiled it by putting little pictures of guitars and me. But then I reversed the exposure, on those little photos, and they're layered like Photoshop kind of thing. So it looks as if there's a bunch of little me's swimming in the ocean or whatever. That's just for fun, whatever. And now it says Guitarist Denis Taaffe, and it's kind of a slap in the face to all guitarists, right? To call yourself Guitarist Denis Taaffe. Now, some people may think that I do that, right? Because I think I'm such a great guitarist, and screw everyone else, forget it, they're nothing. But that isn't the case at all. In fact, the reason I do that is very simple, and I've mentioned it several times before, and that is that when I was younger and learning to play guitar, I would seek out guitar albums, right, at the CD store, that kind of thing. And it was so hard to discover, guitar albums, right? I always use the example of, the Al Di Meola album. I think it's called Elegant Gypsy, right? Elegant Gypsy? What's that? Right? How in the heck was I supposed to know that was a guitar album? I'd never heard of Al Di Meola at that time. It's a great album, by the way, I think. Any case. So here it's really in your face. If you can't figure out that that's a guitar album, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it has Modern Rock Guitar, and then Guitarist Denis Taaffe. So that's why I do that, in any case. It's not that I'm on some ego trip or something, not at all. In fact, I'm, quite embarrassed by it, because one year I was in the Grammy Award entry list, where people could submit their albums and so on. So it had all these famous people, and then all of a sudden it had me, and worse, they used the Guitarist Denis Taaffe. I'm sure these other guitarists go, who's that? And how dare he call himself Guitarist Denis Taaffe? So that's pretty sappy. Anyway, who really cares? Wow. By the way, take a look at this. Huh? Wow. I mean, look at that. That's a guitar shirt, right? I got that for my birthday from one of my sisters, very nicely. And it's one of the few guitar shirts that I have. I have very few, I think maybe one other or something like that. I really love it. But I'm afraid it's already kind of fading, sadly. Probably because I wear it all the time. Anyway, very nice guitar t-shirt. It's got a Les Paul, Stratocaster, and SG, classic guitars here. Okay, so, as I recall, the previous album to this was obviously Volume 346, Sahara. And I did do a video, the making of Volume 347. And that one, well, it was kind of similar to the one before it, a real subdued, real calm, soothing kind of guitar music. So I wanted to do something a little different. And one thing I had neglected to use really was a drum machine. You know, and in this case it was actually, I'll show it to you. Oh, yeah. Here you go, it's the Beat Buddy. And that name just is the worst name you could ever give a pedal. It's embarrassing, it's a shame. I mean, how could the guy do that? Right? I mean, he had a super cool pedal, and he called it the Beat Buddy. And it's disgusting. What kind of name is that? You know? That's almost as bad as, you know, putting Junior in the amp name, you know, like Fender, the Blues Junior. You know, I don't want Junior anything. And a Beat Buddy. I mean, come on. Alesis has a drum machine. I've got one of those too. Alesis SR18. Now, tell me that's not a cool sounding name. But this is not a cool name at all, and I should tell the guy. I'm sure he'd say, well, at this point, it's a little late. Anyway, it's a very, very cool pedal. You know, just real high-quality drum sounds and that kind of thing. If you haven't checked one out, you should. Okay. And so I hadn't really used it all that much. And I guess I've got a mini PA in my home studio. Basically just a, you know, mixer, power amp, out to a couple PA speakers here in the corner. So the drums sound realistic, you know, and I don't have the luxury, you know, of one, being able to play drums. You don't want me playing drums. And on top of that, you know, whenever I'm recording and so on, you know, there's no drummers available. You know, because sometimes I record real late at night and things. In any case, and I'll tell you, that's actually how I worked out playing rhythm. You know, getting my rhythm down was using a drum machine. So I don't have a problem with that. And what I like about these is in fact, on my first album I used a drum machine. And it was the Alesis SR16. Right? And I vowed to use a real drummer on the next album. And actually I didn't. Because I discovered one, getting a decent drum sounds difficult enough, but you know, the drum samples themselves, you know, have been played by real drummers, so that you get a real realistic sound. And you'll hear that on these next 10 tracks. I think I put drums on all of them, and these were put on afterwards. I mean, this was recorded live like all of my albums, and what I did is I actually used a splitter, right? Two to go into the recorder for the drum sound, and two to the PA so I could hear the drums and play to that, you know. Yeah, and it worked out fine. It was nice. Now look, guys, it's really hot in here. Normally I would turn off the air conditioner, but it's really outrageously hot. I mean, it's like 90 something degrees. It's pretty hot. Not what I'm used to anyway. So if you hear some background noise, and of course, the cheapo video editing software, right, has no like EQ or noise reduction or anything for the audio, so just bear with me on that. Now, I guess one other thing I want to mention is with Modern Rock Guitar Vol.347, Sea of Tranquility 2, it was released and distributed all over the place, including YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and so on. But Amazon, for whatever reason, well, actually I know probably the reason, took forever to release this album, you know, and unfortunately, those horrible, you know, COVID-19 virus thing didn't help things at all, you know. And what a terrible thing, and I hope that everyone is safe, you know. It's really, man, terrible. Just terrible, and especially for musicians and so on. In any case, so by the time it was released, I had already recorded volume 348 and part of 349, and in fact, you know, I actually took some time off because of the virus and all that, and what I did is basically, you know, kind of upgraded equipment, changed amps, you know, sold some amps, replaced them, try to get amps that I really like and that kind of thing, and then learning and so on. So, doing a bunch of things musically, but, you know, and I was thinking, man, is there any point in releasing another album at this point? You know, plus I was real busy doing all that stuff. So I'm really pleased to get a chance to make this video, and then from there I'm going to release volume 348, which I really like, by the way. But this one is very good too, and it's very different, especially with the drums and things. Now, one thing that's changed a lot is really concentrating on tube amps and the tube guitar sound, as opposed to earlier solid state. Though, keep in mind, one of my favorite amps, the Albion AG80 DFX, is a solid state amp. So, but I do very much enjoy the tube amps, and I like the idea of this kind of older technology melded with the new technology. Okay, so I remember, I wanted to use when I recorded this album, I wanted to use the Beat Buddy, and I thought, well, okay, I'll just hook it up and record as I usually do, and see where it takes me. And it started from there. So, the very first track is called Structures. And it's actually quite a long track. It's 9 minutes and 46 seconds. And I have to admit that playing with the drums and things is a very different experience than playing without them. Okay, so let's take a listen to track 1 here. And there's that tube guitar sound there, which I really like. And there's the drums, and the bass is actually guitar looped but dropped an octave to sound like a bass. And I really like it because it does sound like bass. And when I play it, to me it sounds like a bass. Yeah, and there's a lot of delays there on the guitar, the clean guitar. Yeah, and another thing I tried to do on this album, besides obviously using the drums, is to have the bass, rather than just, playing the root note, over and over again, try to have more kind of a riff type thing, kind of like, instead of kind of like the U2 kind of bass, bum, 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 bum. Just kind of have it more kind of a riff. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't like the U2 root note. Sometimes that's all it needs. But here I tried to do a little something different here. Yeah. So as you can hear, there's several layers here. And one of them I'm playing live and the other is looped. And then if you listen closely, there's also a third one where I have a delay, kind of just droning on one string, right? Kind of like in a Pink Floyd, like a David Gilmour type thing. Yeah, and I didn't want the drums to overwhelm the music, I want it to be kind of softer in a way. So real atmospheric, if you like. Let's fast forward to 820 or 756. How about that? Okay, so there I'm basically just improvising, Yeah, and this is after 7 minutes of improvising. So by this time I've got quite a few layers going. To the point of almost running out of ideas musically. Yeah. And I'm really surprised at how influenced I was, especially on this track, by David Gilmour, Pink Floyd, right? Kind of like real clean little solo riffs and so on the repeating drone here. Don't know why, well obviously, I definitely like Pink Floyd's music. They're really great. Okay, let's move on to track 2, and it's 8 minutes and 40 seconds long, and it's actually part of a really longer track that I cut into, well, I guess just 2 parts. Track 2 and track 6. But this is track 2 here. Let's take a listen to that. So here's part 1. And why did I cut it? Because it's obviously, it's already, part 1 is 8 minutes and 40 seconds long. And I either hit some wrong notes, or it was just too long, or I didn't like that section, or I don't know. Can't remember. Okay, let's hear it. Ah, yes. So there's a real basic drum pattern. Here, I'm actually playing those double stop intervals. They're actually thirds, I think, and on there. And when I came up with the idea, it was actually at a different tempo. But then for this tempo, I realized, oh no, I've got to play them faster. So that's why you get this kind of da 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 instead of da da da. as I remember, you know, right before I recorded the track, I thought, oh, well, here's a kind of neat idea. Let's work off of that. But I forgot that the tempo is completely different. So I layered that, and here's some other guitar parts here. Yeah, those are kind of fills right there. And if we listen closely, that bass line is there, right? But it's not a huge, overwhelming bass line. A lot of that has to do with my guitar amps. You know, those guitar speakers can't handle a ton of bass. You know, it'll overdrive the speakers. Because don't forget, they also have to play the guitar parts and all the layers and so on. Now, I do have some other looping equipment where I can actually run the bass into the PA instead of the guitar speakers, and there you can get a much bigger bass sound. But it's a totally different approach, you know, to playing a guitar and so on. So these are all loops here. You'll see I've added some harmonics. What I really like about this album is for the amount of layers that I'm using, that they're nicely spaced out. Not everything's not just all bunched up together, you know. So use of space was very important to me here. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit. Ah, yes. Of course, there's a sound. It's an Eventide pedal. Makes it sound like a guitar synth. But it's played on guitar. The outro, if you like. And you know, just like a real guitar synth, it doesn't track all that well. It's pretty good, but anyway. Yeah. So when you break that down, there's some repeating delayed patterns there. You know, but you've got to listen pretty closely because there's quite a few different things going on here. Okay. Okay. Next one. Gravity. And this is track 3. And it's also 8 minutes and 14 seconds. For some reason, when I use the drums, the tracks get a lot longer. And I think part of that might be, I'm not sure, but it might be because it gives you more time to think up parts and stuff, right? And there's still something going on musically. That might be why, I don't know. Okay, it's been a long time really since I've heard this album. Okay. Let's hear it. 8 minutes, 16 seconds long. Here's the beginning. Long fade in. Now finally the tempo has changed compared to the last 2 tracks. And I don't know if it'll come through well on the camera audio, but on this particular track, which was probably recorded before the first and second tracks, the guitar is much louder than the drums. You know, because remember, I wanted a real subtle. I didn't want the drums taking over everything. You know, in fact, I saw some video concerts, live concerts, right? I mean, these guys are playing stadiums and things. And what I discovered is that a lot of these bands and things, I mean, the drums, you know, are huge. Boom, 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 you know. Well, hell, you can't hear anything else. So I didn't want that. However, had I to do it over again, you know, that's the problem when you're recording live. I don't have anyone mixing it, so it's all got to be done, you know, beforehand. Say, well, I think the level will be okay. Sounds good to me, you know. But really, had I to do it over again, I probably would have boosted the drums a little bit, you know. So, not the greatest mixing job, but if anything, you get to hear the guitar a lot better. And so here, of course, I got the bass going along. It's pretty darn subtle. And delayed patterns and things. And those delayed patterns, while it may sound like just one guitar, it can be made up, and I think on this particular one, can be made up of 2-3 tracks of patterns all played together to make, you know, one certain sound. And keep in mind, my focus is really to do film music. You know, what I'd love to hear in a film anyway. You know, it's kind of creating mood, atmosphere. Moods and atmosphere that you would find possibly in a film. You know. So obviously here I've got a couple layers of guitar, and then on top of that I'm kind of, for a better word, soloing over it. But really those solos are more kind of like you know, triads and little chord shapes I've come up with. Now there's an improvisation, and I left that in. But if you ask me, I think that may have been a wrong note. But it's okay, because it's you could call it a passing note, you know, because you're not stopping on it. You're just almost, you know, like if you were doing a chromatic passage, there'd be some passing notes that would be like, wait a minute. And I think I heard one there. It's okay. Wasn't bad enough to cut it right there, though. I left it in, which is fine. I mean, I don't, it wasn't, you know, horrible to my ears anyway. Now here, got several kinds of delays going on, and several different patterns. You know, there's a background pattern, repeating patterns, a repeating series of notes, and then on top of that, another pattern. You can hear it here. All right, so we've got several of those, and then on top of that, we've got kind of the chordal soloing kind of thing. Very cool for me anyway. I love this kind of stuff. Yeah, I could hear that in a film, certainly. Alright, let's go to 7:17. Let's hear the ending. I'm sorry, 6:15:9. So they're adding even more layers. You know, trying to take it as far as I can. There I've got, I can't even tell you how many layers of guitar on there, you know, and I think that's one of the best things about doing this kind of improvising and looping things, is, you know, if it's working, you really lose yourself. You know, it's like effortless. You don't struggle to find different parts and things, you know. And eventually you say, well, okay, that's it. You know. And any more ideas might, you know, ruin the track. I don't know. Okay. Let's move on. Now here's a strange track called Landing Site. It's track 4. And it's only 4 minutes and 11 seconds. And I don't know what it is. Let's hear it. Of course. How cool. Remember that synthesizer stuff? Guitar synth? Well, I couldn't resist. I had to put that in there. And I love this kind of stuff. Reminds me very much of Tangerine Dream, you know, who did a lot of guitar soundtracks and so on. Some of my favorites. And they did the music for The Miracle Mile, a movie I really like. It's kind of a it's not a very well known movie, but I really like it. And they did the music for that. And of course, Risky Business, and what else? Thief is another one. Okay, now here's what's going on with this track. Obviously, I've got a track of the synthesizer, guitar synth, and it's actually 2 tracks, well, 2 layered parts together for the synth stuff, because it's monophonic. In other words, you can't play 4 notes on the guitar at the same time. It has to be 1 note at a time. And then the other track is actually what I'm playing over it, and it's kind of a cool sound. For me, it's kind of like trying to emulate a cello. It's got some reverb on it, so you get this kind of sound, you know. And to me, that's what I was trying to get when I created that sound. You know, I thought, oh well, yeah, that sounds kind of like a cello. Other people will say, what are you talking about? That doesn't sound like a cello at all. But for me, I thought, well, yeah, sounds like a cello. And then, of course, just guitar over that. Yeah. I really like this track. Pretty cool. Obviously, that's just some clean delayed guitar here. Of course, a recurring theme is the delayed little repeating patterns here. I use that probably more than anything else. Okay, let's move on. Track 5. Okay, and here it is. Here's Sea of Tranquility Part 1. And it's only 3 minutes and 55 seconds because later on there's a Part 2 and a Part 3. All of them are under 3 minutes. And probably the reason is that I tried to capture the mood and atmosphere of this track, and it was really hard for me to do, and I think I made a bunch of mistakes too, probably. So alright, let's take a listen to it. Yeah, and really, I really like this track because it has a lot of the things that I use, including the volume swells. You'll hear them on there, which is where you know, strum the strings with the volume down. or hit a string, a note, and then turn the volume up, and you never hear the pick sound. It sounds like a synth. But also, I like it because it kind of has a major seventh, kind of a real airy sound. Yeah. So this one I really like. Yeah. This was hard to capture that. It reminds me, on a hot day, if you have a fan, blowing on you. Well, this is kind of like that musically. And it's actually, to me, very jazzy. And I'm not a jazz player at all. But this track kind of sounded like that. Okay, there's the old 80s style repeating patterns there. You'd hear in the late 80s, you'd hear that kind of, repeating patterns, even Eddie Van Halen type repeating pattern delays. Okay, let's move on, and, okay, we're on track 6. Gravity Field Part 2, and this is 7 minutes and 13 seconds, and remember it's a continuation of track 2, but this is actually track 6. Okay, so let's hear it, and it should be more developed, I'm assuming, than track 2 was. Let's take a listen to that. So there you've got the drums, the bass sound, the guitar synth in the background, which is actually a loop, and then on top of that, the clean guitar. And you heard that first note? That was probably a wrong note too. I was off by one, I guess. But as a passing note, it was okay. Now here's kind of a pattern, guitar pattern, but it's actually, rather than being a, layered or so on, it's actually live and actually on top of the things going on in the background. Okay, let's fast forward that a bit. Alright, let's go to the 4-minute, 25-second mark. So there I've got a couple of layers of clean guitar. So there I'm trying to find kind of interesting, chord shapes. Sounds kind of like a Mixolydian type deal. Okay, anyway, moving on. Now, here we are back at Sea of Tranquility Part 2. And we just heard track 5 was Part 1. Now here, Part 2, and it's very strange because this is actually a really short track. It's like a minute and 32 seconds. But I'll tell you what, when I put this album together, I remember that I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't put it on there because it's so short. And I tried that, and after listening the whole album, I was like, man, there's just something missing, and it was that track. So I left it on there. Alright, let's take a listen to it. So there's that floating kind of sound again. But there's one very big difference. There it is. I don't know if you can hear that. There's little swells and things. But there's a huge reverb on it to give it some depth. And make it sound, you know, far away if you like. It's almost like a shimmer effect you would find on a multi-effects unit, but it isn't. It's a cavernous reverb type sound. Yeah, right there. So when you hit those chords, it really sounds like a shimmering effect. Yeah, I really like that sound. Now, you'll notice that in a couple places, the effects seem to cut in and out. And what that was on the looper that I was using. Well, there's no real start or stop button, you know, so you have to tap it just right, and sometimes I don't do that, you know. Now I have a sidecar for it that does have the start and stop, but I wasn't using it, you know. Maybe I should have. Okay, anyway, moving on. Track 8 is called Surveyor, and it's 5 minutes and 55 seconds. Let's hear that one. I wish I could tell you beforehand what it is, but I don't remember. So let's hear it. Oh yeah. I'm kind of trying to do kind of a more rock kind of sound. So you've got this, you know, real heavy drums here. And there it's a combination of the emulated bass and the guitar synths. Playing a riff on the guitar synth and looping it. A jam, really, if you like. Because the drum machines are fun. If I was playing with a drummer, I guess they would sound like that. Just for fun. Okay, here's let's move, fast forward to 344. So here using a very strange delay setting, and you can hear it. It's kind of this. It's in time though, sync-wise, but very strange delay pattern. Right here, this kind of. And to the untrained ear, it may sound like one note, but it isn't. It's actually a repeating pattern of several notes. Then there's all kinds of stuff going on in the background. I don't remember what it was. All kinds of sounds that I was coming up with. That'd be pretty cool. I like this track. Liven things up a bit. And I don't know if you noticed, but there was a drum fill there. That's that beat buddy. When you hit the pedal, it actually makes a drum fill. Yeah. that really takes me back kind of to my more rock days, I guess. You know, kind of reminds me of that. All right, let's move on. The next track, Free Fall. Okay, and I would assume it's called Free Fall, so it's probably a pretty airy track. Probably fits the album. But let's take a listen to it, because I have no idea. I don't remember. Oh, yeah. Now, this track is kind of odd. No wonder it's called Free Fall. Real airy kind of sound. I really like that kind of wood blocky sound, you know, the drum. You'll hear that a lot of ballads. Yeah, kind of cool track. I don't remember what I was singing in there, but... Alright, let's fast forward that to 348. Ah, yes. Here we're getting into the reverse guitar. So you play something, it plays it back in reverse. And then I loop that, switch to a synthesizer type sound. So layering all that together. Okay, and finally one last track, track 10, 2 minutes and 59 seconds, Sea of Tranquility 3. With this particular track, and it was trying to capture that real free kind of sound, you know, floating kind of sound, and it fit the album well. So this is the outro. Okay, let's hear it. By this time, I'd really nailed the essence of the track of what I was trying to achieve with it. Yeah. Yeah, see that little melody right there? For me, it's a melody. Yeah, I think I finally honed into the main part of the main theme of the album with this particular track. Especially with the repeating patterns, you know, because I remember on the first couple I was like, well, I think that's sounds good to me, but I finally go, yeah, here we go. And so there you go. That's Modern Rock Guitar Vol.347, Sea of Tranquility 2. And I really like this album. I think it's, you know, it's very, not ear-biting, you know, not real loud, you know, but it keeps your attention. But the moods and atmosphere, a lot of the tracks are real light, kind of a real focused in a way, you know, and there's a lot of guitar stuff going on each track, and you really have to listen carefully because there are quite a lot of layers, you know. Now, overall, compared, for example, to my previous album that had no drums in it, I find that there's an intimacy without having the drums. I guess it's a lot softer and so on. You know, so I remember when I first recorded and listened back, I was like, well, yeah, it's, you know, but I mean, the drums, they grow on you, certainly, and on this particular album, obviously, the emphasis is that almost every track, except for one, I think, that we just went through, has drums in it, you know. And I mean, I liked the album in that way. However, I think I would like the contrast, you know, not to have drums on every track. And here, only one track doesn't have drums. So maybe that's something I could work on. But I really like the space, the use of space in the loops. They're not all clustered together and you don't know what the heck's going on, you know. And for the number of loops on each track, I think that turned out really well. I suppose on a couple of tracks the drums could have been mixed better, you know, louder or whatever. Because sometimes the volume, you know, on the drums going to the PA doesn't really match what the drums are going into the recording are, you know. I suppose one way around that would be to mic the drums as well. The problem is, you know, because it's live, the guitar stuff will bleed right into the drums. So here the drums were recorded direct, and then the guitar stuff was just mic'd, you see. So actually it's the drums that are kind of bleeding into the guitar things. But because they're quite loud, you don't quite notice that. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with this album, actually. And definitely, I think the tracks meld very well together. And overall, if I get an impression of the album, is that it's a real, almost a jazz fusion album, if you like. Not quite, though. Not quite, you know. For one, you know, I'm not a jazz player to begin with. But it does have a lot of airy kind of tracks and things. So yeah, I'm very pleased with this one. Now, the next album, since I've already recorded it, which will be released pretty soon, because I'm going to submit it here very shortly, has no drums on it at all. It's a very different kind of album, and gives a very different kind of musical experience, if you like. So I'm kind of torn, you know. I mean, I really like the album, and I like the playing, you know. I think once in a while, you know, there were notes that were, especially in the solo, the passing notes, a little questionable, but it worked out okay. You know, and definitely idea-wise, musically, you know, I think we're very pleased with that, you know. And I mean, for me, you know, whatever limited skill I had, pushed it as far as I could, musically. So yeah, very pleased with this album. I think it's and I'll tell you, I don't know if anyone who's watched this has seen the video, Sea of Tranquility, where it's got the, I think it's a space shuttle and rockets going into space and things. It really fits really well. I mean, surprisingly well. I was like, wow. At first I thought, man, that's kind of hokey, using stock footage and just putting your music to it. But in this case, it captures it very well, and it fits very well. Yeah, so this album has a definite theme to it. And for me, I realize that what's popular today are, singles, whatever, but, for me, always, I think an album, can be so much more than just a collection of singles. It has to flow a certain way and have a theme to it, and I think this album does that. So I'm very pleased with that. So, and finally, Amazon did release it a while ago. I'm glad. So, after all the craziness, changing apps and things, I'm really pleased to, go back to recording. I'm going to release volume 348, which I really like. And, well, I'll tell you what happened with that one is I recorded it, and then, I just burned the CD just to hear it, to see, the flow of the album, the themes of the album, the moods and atmospheres, and so on. And, I don't remember if there were some mistakes on it or not. I don't think so, and if there were, there must be pretty minor, because eventually that was a draft. It wasn't the main album, but it became the main album, because I'd listen to it all the time and go, well, that's the way the album should be. So now I'm done with that one and working on recordings for volume 349. Now that one, I still have probably quite a few tracks to go with that. And I think, as long as it, I grow from album to album musically and try different things and, keep learning and playing, it's good. So, and that's what's happening here. Also using, different equipment and so on gives me a different approach to the guitar, and using different amps and different sounds and so on. So there we go. And I remember it used to be that I would just use 2 amps and that would be it. But here I'm kind of mixing and mashing different amps to get different kind of tonalities and so on. Pretty interesting. Okay, so that's it. I guess thanks for hanging out and taking a listen to me talk about this album for so long. And I hope that that this virus, that they find a solution to it, and that people stay safe. All right, see you next time. Okay.